their history, background, get to know the client and the family member and see what their needs are and what they would want from our program and how they would benefit from our program.
Right, I understand that. And, you know, it's so amazing to me how often you look at what you think is a gigantic problem, and in walks a professional and says, oh, Grandma can't reach the upper shelves. Have you seen these little handy things that you can just squeeze and you can get a can off the shelf? There must be a great sense of satisfaction to help people remain independent and vibrant and in the place they're most familiar with, their home.
There is. And a lot of families are not aware of services that are offered to the client, anywhere from safety devices to make sure that we prevent falls, to transportation to go to see their medical appointments.
Right.
And also, this relieves a lot of family stress, because I know as a sibling, I had to take care of my dad back and forth all the time, but when this program came along, he has a caregiver and he has an emergency response service, so the whole family feels so much more confident and secure under this program, and so does the client.
Well, I know how that feels. 5 years ago, with all of our independent elderly women, I didn't even know there was such a thing as in-home non-medical care. I thought, oh, you got to go right to the nurse, you know, and then to hear about, and all caregivers who are watching this will understand, that there are actually programs to provide relief for the caregivers, and that is important because we all need to take a break. This stuff can be very challenging.
It is challenging, and when it is known that when a caregiver does take some break and they do come back to provide better care for their loved one or just the elder who needs their care, it's proven that they do provide better care, and it just relieves the caregiver from, maybe they want a movie night, they want to get away from all of this. And I've been a caregiver myself, so taking care of my grandfather, I knew it was very difficult to even leave him home alone. So it is good to know that there's such programs out there, and with the emergency response system, which we monthly provide, if they fall, they're home alone, they could press the button, paramedics immediately will show up to assist them in getting up or assisting them in any way.
Well, that's the worst fear.
It is.
It really is. I've told the story before, being on the freeway, stuck in traffic, and finding out that my mother-in-law had fallen. And I was still 30 minutes away, and what do you do?
Exactly.
You know, and it can really drive you crazy. But I want to, you mentioned something about the psychosocial aspects of giving care. I think a lot of people are concerned that when a senior citizen decides to stay in their home, that they're choosing not to socialize with people, but that's not really true. They still want to be active and get out.
That is correct. They love to be active. A lot of them, we refer to adult day health care programs, senior centers, and they love to be active in those ways. We provide transportation for them to get out.
Very important in Los Angeles.
It is very important in Los Angeles, and a lot of them do want to be active, and they even, the monthly contacts and the visits that our care managers provide for the clients, they feel that they are appreciated, that there's somebody there to care for them.
That's one. Well, you know, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and Aging in LA recently visited beneficiaries of Partner in Care's Multipurpose Senior Services Program. Pamela Antwine has been looking after her mother, Ellen Pete, first from a distance, and now they live together. And she talks with RN Care Manager Marjan Bijatani.
My mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's in 2000, and I immediately became her caregiver at that time. It was a long-distance caregiver job because we lived in different cities.
Was it difficult to be a long-distance caregiver?
Well, it was.
It's not easy, of course.
No.
How did you feel when you first heard the diagnosis?
Oh, it was a mixture of emotions. I was overwhelmed. I knew a little about Alzheimer's and different dementias, but I really had to go to the research then, the books, to really understand what was happening to my mom. But Alzheimer's was the furthest from my thoughts.
Yeah.
You know, we never want to believe that's what's happening with our loved ones.
Of course. And were resources available, or was it difficult to find resources for your mom?
It was a struggle. It was a struggle when she was diagnosed. Then, you know, where do I begin? What do I do in terms? How can I help add quality to her life, whatever is left of it, and keep her kind of in the here and now. I reached out in the community to different resources, Alzheimer's Association, Department of Aging, to find resources to try and help, because with her there seemed to be a pretty fast decline. I noticed a very fast decline going on, and I really wanted to be able to accommodate.
Of course. Tell me, how did you learn about Partners in Care, the MSSP program?
Partners in Care, wonderful program, I learned about through Department of Aging in my search of finding resources out there. My mom at one point started to lose weight, and her doctor had prescribed a higher calorie diet for her, and Ensure was prescribed, but living on a limited income, we couldn't afford it. And so I had to try and find a way to be able to provide this for her. Fortunately, Partners in Care was able to help us with that while we were waiting for a TAR to be approved for her to be provided with the amount of Ensure that she would need daily to help maintain her weight.
How has our program impacted your life and your mom's life?
Well, it has really impacted our life greatly. As I mentioned, the Ensure was provided by Partners in Care until a TAR was approved, and it took quite some time. They helped me with other things in terms of incontinence supplies, things that our budget doesn't allow for me to be able to have, extra to provide for my mom. So it's been a great help to us.
Had we not been there, how would that have impacted your life? What would have happened?
I hate to think what would have happened. I would not have been able to be a full-time caregiver to my mom if it were not for Partners in Care. I would have, financially we're pretty stressed, even still. But there are things that I think my mom would have probably ended up in a convalescent home, mainly because she is beyond the point of being in a board and care home, residential living facility, or assisted living. So I think I would have had to look in terms of a convalescent home, and that would have really broke my heart. It's a joy to have her with me. It's a lot of work, but it's a joy to have her with me. It's very gratifying.
So we have provided you with respite care. How has that been helpful to you?
That has provided me time to be able to get some much needed time to, I call it me time for myself. That has been provided thanks to Partners in Care.
Has our program helped you manage your mom and help you keep your mom at home?
Absolutely. It gives me that break to kind of be able to revive my energy so that I can continue on with her daily and provide the best care that I'm able to provide to her. And I think she knows that too.
Yeah,
And enjoys it.
I'm sure she feels it.
I think so.
That was wonderful testimony to the services you're providing people. I was struck by her admission that things can get out of hand so quickly. A diagnosis and an illness can progress so quickly that you don't know what comes next. And by having professionals around you who are already experienced, they can kind of prepare you for those next steps. And that's got to be incredibly satisfying to be able to say to the family, now look, we've got this covered now, but this is what's coming.
Definitely, I totally agree. Just to help them out with whatever needs they may have, just to keep their loved ones at home. In this case, was the mom to keep her mother at home, and just to see the smile on her face that we were there to help her out with the needs that she needs. She has to keep her at home, and overall, I think it's been a great experience for her to be part of our program, and it's just, we get so satisfied to see such wonderful outcomes when we are able to be there to help them out and to keep them at home in such as this case.
Right. Well, Anwar, it happens in families that somebody ends up being the person that provides the in-home care. Are you able to give counseling to other family members to help them understand what the primary caregiver is going through and what their contribution maybe should be, so that
Sure. We provide counseling through a licensed clinician. We also provide various other types of resources. It's important for all viewers to know that this is a state-funded program, and it's available throughout the state of California. And it's also important to point out that we have a collaborative of vendors and agencies that help us do our job. So we have other organizations that help us manage this case. And by the way, all this is very, very confidential. Confidentiality is our number one goal here.
Well, we need to talk more about this, but it's time to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll continue our discussion on how to assist vulnerable older adults to avoid having to leave their own homes. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back with more of Aging in LA.
The biggest blessing in life is to realize your personal power.
So many of us wonder, why are we living? Well, that's why we're living, to help others.
Community work brings families closer together.
When we help each other, we all get healthier.
Doing good for others, doing positive action always comes back around and enriches your life. It's the biggest gift you could ever give yourself.
Doing good is good for all of us.
Please join us in volunteering.
Improve your health by helping others. Visit iparticipate.org.
Before approaching an intersection. So that's why 2 wrong turns don't make a right turn. Now let's learn about tailgating.
Hey, that's how I got my ticket.
You got a ticket for tailgating? That's not good.
That can be really annoying.
Doesn't get you there any faster.
It leaves you no distance to brake.
Which makes it easier to get into a crash.
And it also may increase your insurance premium.
And I hate tailgaters.
Tailgating causes crashes. Back off.
Watch the road.
Welcome back to Aging in LA. Our topic today, life is better at home. Our guests are from Partners in Care Foundation. Esther M. Sefelian is Supervisor, Care Managers, and Anwar Zuwahed is Vice President of Direct Services at the Foundation. Thank you both again for joining us. This is really a good discussion because the idea that you have identified best practices for keeping people in their home is so important because most people would prefer it. Can you tell me a little bit about how you can apply the best notions that you've uncovered to a real-life situation?
Definitely. It is known that aging at home is preferred more often, obviously, than being institutionized.
Sure.
And, it could be the simplest thing, the simplest modifications at the house, such as adding a handheld shower hose to assist them taking showers easily, or a grab bar, or a carpet tape to secure the rugs down so they don't fall. The simplest things could help the clients and individuals, our elders, seniors, stay at home and be comfortable and safe at home. And that's the goal, is to keep them as comfortable and as secure and to prevent any falls. That's our motto, just to help them out.
I understand. Now, Anwar, you mentioned something while we were in the break about how fearful some seniors can be about having strangers in their home or signing a contract, somebody's going to take my house. How do you help reassure a senior that these services are not going to end up taking them to bankruptcy court?
Exactly. These services are at no cost. They are their benefit that they've earned and are entitled to. It's a state program. We are a nonprofit agency, and there is no contract to sign. You simply sign the care plan agreeing that this is the service you want us to provide. Each client has an individualized, personalized care plan, and based on the agreement with the family and the client and the care managers and of course the supervisor, we all come up with a care plan, and once the client signs, we're able to provide them this needed service.
Now, what about follow-up? I mean, elderly people's needs do change. Is that part of what you do by managing or supervising, rather, the case managers?
Well, all the care managers actually make monthly contacts to their clients. And every 3 months, they go out to visit the client. And every 6 months, we have the alternate discipline, which meant, like, if the primary care manager is a social worker, the nurse will go out to see the client and assess what they believe might have been changes and how to assist the client even further. And every year, we have a reassessment. Is when we go out there and assess the entire atmosphere, safety, ambulatory equipment usage, medications, emergency response services, just assess the whole situation, the health conditions diagnosis of the client. If they have changed severely, how we could assist to keep them further from being institutionalized.
Right. You know, I noticed in the piece that we saw with Miss Antoine that she actually had a hoist to help move her mother around. Now, how would you even know that such a thing exists?
Well, that's why we're here for.
Right.
You know, we work really, really close with their primary doctors and their physicians in order to come up and fulfill their care plan needs. Our nurses and our social workers are very well trained to be able to identify any medical needs, any safety needs, or anything that they need basically to make sure that they're independent and living at home with dignity. And that includes working with their primary physician and getting the prescriptions needed to install these safety devices or hoisters in their house.
Well, a lot of people aren't aware that you actually do need a prescription to get things like a wheelchair or whatever. But that the hoist, I was just thinking the many times that it's physical. You pick this person up to move them into the shower because you don't.
We do help with that.
Well, and
we do help
that's
with all
important.
the process, even to get a prescription from the doctor. Our care managers will contact the doctor and say, we realize that so-and-so needs a Hoyer lift or to assist them, or needs a cane, or whatever the needs might be. And our care managers do make contacts with the doctor's offices to get a prescription. And we do have vendors who we use, who we send the prescription out to, and immediately they know the process and how company works. We'll send out the needed items to the client.
Right. I know I have seen too often where the husband ends up trying to take care of his wife and he's not very good at it.
Right.
And needs a lot of counseling to come to understand this is not a failing. You are not failing your wife and your marital vows. This is a hard job for anyone.
It absolutely is, and we provide counseling and education on how to be a proper caregiver. And we work closely with the City of Los Angeles and their family caregiver outreach support groups, and ask the expert events through our family care partnership program, also at Partners in Care, that would help all caregivers be educated and provide them the knowledge and support that they need.
Right. Now, it's very important. If this has piqued your interest, we're going to, again, put the telephone numbers up for you to be able to call Partners in Care Foundation, so you'll have a point of contact. It's a challenge, and we read them off again for you. Area code 818-837-3775. or 213-738-8320. And the website is www.picf.org. And of course, you can call the Department of Aging and we'll get you this contact information. So, Esther, do you think that the population of growing numbers of seniors is going to get used to calling on you and other providers? Do you think it's going to be part of their new reality?
Oh, I think so, especially with the baby boomers retiring.
Yes.
They're used to, more of them are used to living at home and living independently, I should say, than living at home.
Yeah.
And they are going to get used to being on their own more than the current generation. And they are going to rely on little programs like ours to assist them with whatever needs they may have.
And that's interesting. Is there an educational outreach for the people who are potential clients? Are you actively telling people, look, we exist and you're going to need us one day?
At Partners in Care Foundation, we have various in-services that we do through the City of Los Angeles community to make sure that they're aware of the services that we provide, whether it be caregiver services, multi-purpose senior service programs, adult day programs.
I wish we had more time, but that's all the time we have for today's edition of Aging in L.A. I want to give special thanks to our guests from Partners in Care Foundation, Esther M. Safelian and Anwar Zoehed. Thanks to both of you for joining us today. Thank you, bet. Now, it's time for today's Senior Stat Shot. Did you know that more than 10 million older adults require assistance with daily living activities, such as eating, dressing, and personal care? 1/3 of older adult Americans rely on Social Security as their main source of income. Simple home modifications, such as adding grab bars and handrails, could help many seniors avoid moving from their home. 96% of seniors wish to remain independent in their own homes instead of moving in with family members. Increased provision of in-home services to assist independence in the home is causing an increased vacancy rate of up to 30% at some assisted living and nursing home facilities. 15% of late mortgage payments in the older adult population are due to increased medical costs. And services to assist older adults to remain at home include home health care, homemaking services, nutrition programs, home safety and repair services, which are available through the Department of Aging. Call 1-800-510-2020 for details. That's 1-800-510-2020 for details. And that's today's Senior Stat Shot. The Department of Aging produces this program with CityView, Channel 35, so that seniors living in Los Angeles and surrounding communities are well informed on the many issues that face them in everyday life. And also to let you know of the many services that the Department of Aging offers our senior citizens. Now, we'd like to hear from you with comments on the program, what you like, what you think can be improved, and hear your ideas for future programs. So please give us a call. Number's right there on your screen, area code 213-252-4088. That's 213-252-4088. Call us with your comments and ideas. We look forward to hearing from you. I'm Paul Peterson for the Los Angeles Department of Aging, the people here at CityView Channel 35, and all of our guests on Aging in LA. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you the next time.
Monique Chambers. I'm sitting here in Larchmont, and you are watching LA City View, Channel 35, our city, our channel.
morning, Los Angeles, and welcome to January 11th, 2011 City Council meeting. We are here in John Farrar Council Chambers, room 340 of City Hall, where we meet every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. Thank you to those council members who are here on time. We're just one short of a quorum right now. Thank you to council members Cardenas, Koretz, Krikorian, Labange, Parks, Perry, Smith, and Zine. And if we could count Councilmember Miskowski, we'd have a quorum, but unfortunately we can't. So we are waiting council members Alarcon, Councilmember Weezer, Councilmember Reyes, Councilmember Rosendahl, and Councilmember Weston. If you'll please make your way as soon as possible. I want to thank those members of the public who are here with us in council chambers. We are here on 10 a.m. at Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Also broadcast live on Channel 35 throughout the city's cable system, available online at lacity.org, and also through your telephone at 213-621-CITY through council phone. You're able to follow City Council those 4 ways, as well as in person in San Pedro and Van Nuys remotely, and where you can testify to the City Council from those city halls as well. If you'd like to be heard on any items that are before us today, please feel free to fill out a speaker card in the back and to hand that to one of our sergeants at arms, and we'll be sure to get that in the mix. We also have cards that you can fill out and put public comment in the upper right corner for our general public comment for items not on today's agenda, but that never left under our jurisdiction. We do have a quorum now, so Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alarcon, Cardenas, Hahn, Weezer, Koretz, Krikorian, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Weston, Zine, Garcetti. 11 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you. First order of business, please.
Approval of the minutes.
All right, Mr. Zine moves, Mr. Rosendahl seconds. Without objection, those minutes will be approved. Next order of business.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
All right, Mr. Weezer moves, and Ms. Hahn seconds. Without objection, those will be approved as well. If I can please ask everybody in council chambers to rise. At the beginning of the week, we pledge allegiance to our flag. And if I could ask Mr. Zine to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand. Face the flag of our country. Place your hand over your heart. Ready to begin. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Zine. If we can go to the next order of business, please.
Mr. President, do you want to run through the agenda?
Yes, please. If we can run through the agenda, colleagues, if we can turn your attention to the agenda before us today. First items, please.
First item, item 1, is a building and safety lien notice for public hearing.
Okay, do we have a card on that?
There are no cards.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing on that. Does anybody wish to call that special from the council? Seeing none, let's go ahead and vote on item 1. Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is approved. Next items, please.
Items 2 through 7 are items for which public hearings have been held. On item 3, there is a request to receive and file that matter.
Yes, I'll move the receiving and filing of that. Anybody else wishing to call specials? Mr. Koretz.
I'd like to call item 5 special.
Okay, 5 for Mr. Koretz. Mr. Zine? 4 for Mr. Zine.
And, Mr. President, on item 6, there is no action required inasmuch as this was adopted by council on Friday.
Okay. So if there's no others, let's go ahead and take up the balance. Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Those are approved. If we can send 2 without objection forthwith, please. Next items, please.
Items 8 through 20 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
If there's no objection to consideration, those items are now before us. Do we have cards on any of these, Mr. Clerk?
There are cards on items 9 and 20.
Okay. And Mr. Koretz, special item?
Item 15.
15 for Mr. Koretz. Mr. Cardenas? 18. Any other specials? If not, let's go ahead and take up we'll close the public hearings and take up the balance. Please prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Those are approved. I'd like to take 18 out of order for Mr. Cardenas before our public comment, since we have a family here on this reward motion. We appreciate the family being here very much, and Mr. Cardenas, I'll turn it over to you.
And I'm going to ask you, if you don't mind, if you'd like to say a few words. It's being filmed.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. It's with great sadness and anguish that I am announcing this reward motion for Ramir Williams, who was killed after leaving work on Sepulveda Boulevard in Van Nuyen in my district. It is something that the police department is working on, but unfortunately we don't have enough leads to bring the perpetrators to justice and to close this case. So in situations like that, that's where the City Council takes the opportunity, as in this moment, to offer a reward. And in this case, we're offering a reward for $50,000, and to ask people to please, if you saw anything, if you know anything, to come forward so we can bring closure to this case. And with me today are some of the family members of Ramir, and what I'd like to do at this time is offer an opportunity for Rosemary, Ramir's wife, to say a few words, and she's here with her children.
Thank you for having me here. My name is Rosemary Williams. My husband was killed on Christmas Eve, leaving work, coming home to his family. He left 4 beautiful kids, Amelia Williams, Ramir Williams Jr., Anaya Marie Williams, and Rain Williams, which is not here today. His family, his friends are here to support what I'm going through. Ramir may not have been the best person. Everybody has faults, but he changed his life around. My husband started working at Wingstop. Wingstop don't make that much money, but he decided to go ahead and work instead of going out there doing things that is not right. I just want to let everybody know that I ask you, please, if you know anything, to please come forward and help me out, help my kids out. I'm sorry, I'm nervous. It's just a lot going on right now, and I'm trying to stay together.
You're doing great.
I just ask you guys to help me and my family. He was the provider. Right now, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't have any answers. I want to know answers. I'm angry and I'm upset. And I just wish that you guys out there can help find out who murdered my husband. I ask you, please, 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 please take the time out and help me. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rosemary Williams. Like you said, you were nervous, but at the same time, I want to thank you for personally reminding all of us that we have a responsibility as a community and as individuals, that when we see injustice, and in this particular case, on Christmas Eve, Ramir Williams was killed. There are people who have seen something. There has to be. Please, please, please understand that we need your help. We need to close this case for the Williams family, for the community, and for all of us. We need to see justice served in this case, and with your help, we'll do that, and we're offering this $50,000 reward if you'll please help out. And we're going to have a press conference again in a few minutes, so we'll have the detectives there to explain more about the case, but it's simply this. This is an opportunity, colleagues, once again, unfortunately, for us as a council to offer a reward so we can bring closure to this case. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you to the families very much for being here. We appreciate you very much, and our deepest sympathies to all of you. We'll go to our general public comment. Again, this is... Oh, sorry, we need to vote on the reward. Excuse me, Mr. Koretz, did you want to speak on this? Or okay. Please open the roll on this item, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
We'll send that forthwith. We'll go now to public comment for items not on the agenda, but under our jurisdiction. Dr. Clyde Williams is our first speaker. After that will be Ankur Patel in Van Nuys. Good morning.
Dr. Clyde Williams, 4115 Barrett Road, El Sereno, Northeast LA. Please register to vote. The election's coming, March the 8th, so we need a lot of people registered before the deadline. So, LA 32 Neighborhood Council is going to sponsor a forum for the candidates for the CD14 on February the 17th. at the El Sereno Senior Citizens Center from 6 to 9 p.m. And hopefully people will have registered to vote by then. Okay, the King of Potholes, very successful partially this last weekend. However, we submitted lists of potholes last week before was the deadline, and there's still potholes remaining. So on Mission Road, Huntington Drive, we still have potholes that were listed last week. So we'd like to get some of the big ones at least fixed. We don't know what the process is, but right now it causes accidents, congestion, people diverting from one lane to the other. So we'd really like to have those potholes fixed that we have already listed. Then we can look for new ones for you. Thank you.
Thank you. And if you don't mind sending that to my office as well, we'll help you out with that as well. We did 15,000 this weekend, but we know there's tens of thousands still out there, and crews were out yesterday, today, and every day, so we'll make sure that those get covered. Ankur Patel is our next speaker in Van Nuys. After that is Walter Bechtel back here in Chambers. Good morning, Mr. Patel.
Good morning. Again, I'd like to speak about the criminalization of dissent. I was here on Friday. There was no agendas. Tony Cardenas's office has furlough, so I was out here and no way to speak on anything. That was a little bit disappointing. But the criminalization of dissent. We come out here to tell you that this is wrong and that is going on and we can't get this information and we'd like to see you do something about this. You don't listen, so then we protest. We hold signs on corners. We protest in a way that is acceptable to the powers that be, which in effect is ineffective. You say, go ahead and protest. How effective is that? So then we protest in a way that gets people's attentions. Maybe sit-ins, chain ourselves to doors in front of for-profit prisons and detention centers and say, look, this is what's going on. And then we're criminalized. We're prosecuted for non-violently protesting what we feel is right. Now, there are different groups across the city that this has happened to. Todos Somos Arizona, I spoke a little bit about that last week. CSUN students protesting fee hikes, which is kind of difficult. How are you going to protest budget hikes, this and that? But they've been arrested, and now they're being prosecuted, facing jail time. The bus riders union, they had 2 or 3 people arrested in a demonstration against fare hikes. Los Angeles Community Action Network, they had 2 or 3 people arrested, actually 3, 4, or 5 people arrested in protests against, about housing and the cost of that going up. Dreamers, DreamAct students, also protesting, have been arrested. Now, Carmen Trutanich is trying to put these nonviolent protesters in jail for up to a year in some cases. You guys have to do something about this. You guys have to get his ear and say these are nonviolent protesters who are trying to bring up issues, and we're being threatened to be put in jail. You got to do something about this.
Thank you, Mr. Patel. Our next speaker is Walter Bechtel here in Council Chambers. After that, we'll go to Van Nuys and Rick Nightingale. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. I better not read off a piece of paper. You're going to have to stop me from speaking. But I think that it's important to note there are people, nuts or whatever you want to call them, who watch these videos, and if they perceive something that is a violation of freedom of speech or something, they're going to go off and they're going to do something. I think it's very important to stick to the rules, and it's not really funny. If you say somebody can speak, let them go ahead and speak. It doesn't matter if they're reading from the Constitution or something else. That's not the point. I can't second guess these people. I know they're out there, and if they perceive something is wrong, they're going to do something crazy. That's all I can tell you. Also, the thing about this reward, I think the people should know. After I saved Mr. Menker's life in 1992, that's when hell began for me. So whoever is a witness to this other crime, that's your business. But as far as I can tell, until justice is brought to my case, until Miss A.N.M. is in jail for theft by deception and other associated crimes, this city is not interested in helping victims. This city only wants to take witnesses and victims and do things to them. So that's terrible if somebody got shot, but you really need to take an assessment, because this city has destroyed my life simply because I saved somebody's life in 1992 from being murdered. His name is Mr. Menker, and the guy that almost killed him is named Clark. Thank you.
Thank you, and my apologies, sir, if I didn't make myself clear. It wasn't that you can't read off a piece of paper, you always can. It was that you had spoken once before. Yeah, so you're always invited to be able to speak off a piece of paper. Don't worry about that. It was one speech per person per public comment period. Thank you. Our next public comment speaker is Rick Nightingale in Van Nuys. After that is Miriam Fogler in Van Nuys.
Yeah, Rick Nightingale, Van Nuys. I sure like the on this pothole deal, but I've been on for Councilman Smith to see about fixing White Oak between Nordhoff and Rand Street. You can't even drive your car down there. I mentioned it before. But, they can't fix it because they can fix 5 other streets because of this one, because all the tree roots are growing up about 6 inches. You can't even drive over it. But I guess that don't count. You people, you have to get out and vote. You people gonna have to get out and vote. And call your council people, your local, and find out where the meetings are regarding when they're gonna have their debates and so forth. They had one in 12. They didn't even advertise it last week and all that, but there is one coming up on the 31st of this month. But you people have to get out there and see what the rest of these people say and what they're going to do and ask questions. Just don't sit there. I mean, there's nobody, even a council people here, that turn around and question these people. That's why they got a free range to do whatever they want, when they want, how they want, and whatever they want. I mean, there's no accountable. And when they say the percentage of the murders are down and all that, I don't know. It's like a curve, and they can fix a curve any way they want. I mean, a few years back, I just don't understand it. They keep saying it's going down, and every day there's 1, 2, 3, 4 murders and so forth. Who knows what it is? Their curve could be all over the book. I just don't even believe it, because it's just outrageous. I mean, and then like I said, I'm on this, the illegals. I'm sorry, it's just the way it is. They won't enforce it. It's just a situation that's the way they feel it is on a sanctuary city. It's caused crime. You know it's caused crime. You don't see anything when they arrest people and they're doing illegal things. They just wash it all under the carpet. That's just the way the city is, and it's really terrible. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Miriam Fogler. After that will be Donna Pearman. Good morning, Ms. Fogler.
Yeah, good morning. I called my dad about what happened. You know, we need to pray for the souls there. I know it's not a city topic, but it's related to everybody here all over the nation, including here. You know, our safety is very important, and national security. Citizens need to be aware. They need to be trained. They need to be ready, because we got people that are not stable, that are disturbed, people that want to hurt others. And I was going to talk about Prop 13, that we need to keep it, because we don't want more people that are unstable, disturbed, confused. We need to have cohesion, unity here. People need to unite and stop racism here. You know, the Shaw that was murdered by illegal. I'm proud of Arizona. I wish that hopefully that Arizona law will do something about this illegal. I mean, this monster. Because he needs dying. I hope the state of Arizona and the U.S. government gets rid of him like Timothy McKay. It serves a lesson to others not to use that kind of force. That's only to be done if, God forbid, if your life is in danger. You have a right to defend yourselves. And you have a right to go out and vote. And vote the wrong one, vote the bad people out who are raising our taxes, who want to take out 13, folks. Don't be afraid to come out and speak and give and ask for information and ask for messages. Start communicating with your representatives. Don't let this guy win. Why don't want him to win? And I don't want Congress and the President give in either. We mustn't let him win.
Our next speaker is Donna Pearman, also in Van Nuys. Good morning, Ms. Pearman.
First, I want to take a slight moment of silence for the victims of Arizona. Okay, and I want to fix Wilshire and Glendon on the pothole on the streets. There's one there. Anyway, we need to be able to protect ourselves against monsters. We are not safe even going to see Congress people and council people. I wish someone could have used a gun to protect the public. We need to encourage people to protect others if need be. Go after the criminals. And the terrorists. We need to be able to go and stop them if we're able to. If we're there first, and we should be able to have these weapons to be able to protect these people, to stop the murderers. Also, I need to talk about the man who, I think his name is Mr. Robbins, who said to get rid of Proposition 13. Doesn't he realize if you get rid of Proposition 13, more poor people, especially people of color, would lose their homes, would lose their apartments. Property tax would be sky high. Getting rid of Proposition 13 would not help the homeless. It would be more homeless, less people to help. There would be more homeless, and we have less money that we can give the homeless we have right now. If Proposition 13 was the only thing to be able to stop out of control spending. They would be able to come up with any project they want to, and the property tax would go everywhere where it wasn't. And we need to keep that money for city services, be able to keep the fire department stocked, be able to have the police stocked, because less money. If we don't have, we need to get rid of the CRA also. Those are the ones who are taking all our money. The CRA is the one that is hurting the homeless, because they're taking all the tax increment dollars, and we don't have any more money to give them, or anyone else for that matter.
Thank you, Ms.
hello,
Fairman.
Mr. Garcetti.
That will close our general public comment for today. We'll go to the items called special. The first is number 4, I believe. Mr. Zine?
Item 4, called special by Councilmember Zine.
Okay. Dennis Zine, item number 4.
Thank you, Mr. President. Do we have anyone here from the Department of Finance? The Department of Finance, going once, going twice.
Do we have any staff from...
Can we hold this on the table for Department of Finance, please?
Sure. Let's hold that on the table until we get some staff members here on item number 4 from the Department of Finance. We'll go to the next item called special, please.
Item 5, called special by Councilmember Koretz.
Okay, Mr. Koretz, item number 5 is before us. Recognize you.
Colleagues, I ask for your support for this great opportunity to support the Melrose Business District in CD5. I need to offer a quick amendment to it, though. The original motion has a clerical error for item number 3. It currently states that the council authorized the city clerk to accept $30,000 from the Melrose Avenue Business Association or other entity as matching funds for the consultant study and bid creation. It is not $30,000 that the city will accept, but rather $40,000. So with that amendment, I ask for your support on this motion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Koretz. With that, let's go ahead and take a vote on item 5. Please prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Item 9 was called special for cards.
Okay. Dr. Clyde Williams on item number 9.
Dr. Clyde Williams, El Sereno, Northeast LA. There's a concept in engineering called life of project costs. That is, how much does the capital cost, but also how much does the operations and maintenance costs incur over a 20-year, 50-year period. The TMDL for trash in the LA River created Propo and the screens on the stormwater inlets. However, without adequate maintenance, the screens aren't cleared. Thereby, ponding occurs. Therefore, asphalt in the surrounding area deteriorates rapidly. So there's a question. If you're going to do the capital works, well, that's always based upon some regulation or specification, and that's the TMDL. The TMDL for toxics in Ballona Creek will lead to much higher costs for capital works and also for the long-term operations and maintenance. Bureau of Sanitation's own estimates would be $500 million, or no, $8 billion. $8 billion times their own percentage, 8%. That's a lot of money every year. So we should be looking at what are we committing to for the next 25 years, because we can't even pay for the existing systems to be cleaned. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Any members wishing to be heard on this item? If not, let's go ahead and prepare the roll on item 9 and tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
That is approved. Yes. Yeah, we'll send that forthwith without objection. Thank you. Next item called special, please.
Item 15, called special by Councilmember Koretz.
Thank you, Mr. Koretz. Item number 15.
Thank you, Mr. President. In March of 2008, Katan Kaimov, a 70-year-old resident of the Melrose neighborhood, was brutally stabbed to death and actually stabbed and left to bleed to death for over a couple-hour period. It was a particularly heinous crime, and we're saddened, even though it's been a couple of years, for his family and friends and for the community. Although something good did come out of it, which is the Melrose Action Neighborhood Group, one of the most active neighborhood associations in the city, with meetings attracting as many as 600 members of a relatively small neighborhood. But we would like to once again extend a $50,000 reward and to urge anyone who has information about this crime to contact the LAPD, either to call to do so anonymously at 877-LAWFUL with 2 L's, or to be considered for the reward money to call Detective Jameson with LAPD's Wilshire Division Homicide Unit at 213-473-0446. Or if they don't write down any of that information quickly enough, they can also contact my office. So I ask that the council reapprove this $50,000 reward.
Thank you very much, Mr. Koretz. Let's prepare the roll on this item, and please tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
That is approved. Mr. Zine, are there personnel here from the Department of Finance yet? Do you know?
No, they're not.
Is your staff's working on it? Okay. We'll go to the next item.
Item 20 was called special for cards.
Okay. I'd like to recognize Ms. Hahn, the chair of committee, first, and then we'll go to public comment. Ms. Hahn.
Great. Thank you. Colleagues, I am asking you to support me in asserting our jurisdiction today over a decision that was made by the Harbor Commission that rejected a proposal that would have brought a green, union, state-of-the-art shipyard to the Port of Los Angeles. And let me just start off this discussion by saying right off the bat that I am completely in support of the $100 million channel deepening dredging project that is underway right now at the Port of Los Angeles. And I would never do anything to interfere with that project or that schedule, because dredging our main channel at the port is vital to our economy. It's vital to moving ahead and preparing the Port of Los Angeles to accommodate those larger ships that we know are coming, and would keep us competitive, and it would make sure that we kept the they're estimating that it would account for about 10,000 good jobs at the Port of Los Angeles. We are America's port, but we have to keep our position as America's port. And with the Panama Canal coming online in 2014, the need for us to be ready to accommodate the larger ships and keep those jobs here in Los Angeles is key. And I don't think anybody in the room today would disagree with that. And you will hear the port staff say that giving the go-ahead to this shipyard project would jeopardize that main channel deepening and causing delays to the Army Corps-led project. But let me assure you that I would never propose something that would do that. I care more about the future of this port, or as much as anyone does. With that said, I think it's important for us to not let slip away an opportunity to bring over $50 million of private money to develop a shipyard on the current vacant site at the port, which used to be a shipyard. I think it's a win-win opportunity which would not cost any taxpayer dollars. This is a great opportunity to create new jobs, generate tax revenue, and would develop the historic site, the former Southwest Marine Shipyard. I don't think we should miss an opportunity to create additional jobs at the port. According to LAEDC, nearly 2,000 jobs. These are highly skilled, good-paying jobs that could be brought back by bringing a major shipbuilding and repair and maintenance facility. Of the top 25 port cities in the world, Los Angeles and Long Beach are the only ones without a major shipbuilding and repair facility. Large ships have to travel to San Diego or Seattle for maintenance, and major repairs, which generate additional diesel pollution, and send the jobs there instead of keeping them here in Los Angeles. Some of those vessels that we're talking about include our own SS Lane Victory, Coast Guard vessels, the large Foss tugboats that guide our container ships in and out of the harbor. Even our Catalina Express boats have to be built and repaired in other cities because we have no place to do that work locally. We are in the process of doubling the size of our Cabrillo Marina, and those vessels will need to be serviced and repaired. We need to stop shipping our jobs to other places. The Harbor Commission decided against moving forward with this proposal because they could not figure out another location to put the dirt that they are dredging from the main channel. And let me tell you, this is about 163,000 cubic yards of dirt, which is really a small amount considering that the total amount of dirt that they're dredging from the main channel is 3 million cubic yards. And I think most people who came here all the way down, many came from San Pedro and other places in Los Angeles, which would much rather this Southwest Marine site be a new shipyard instead of a dump site for this dirt. And before we fill those last 2 remaining deep water slips and forever foreclose the possibility of a shipyard at the Port of Los Angeles, I thought it was important, colleagues, that the City Council take a second look, have one more hearing in my Committee on Trade, Commerce, and Tourism to see if we could delve one more time, take another look, depend on creative minds and smart engineers at the port to see if it is possible to work together to come up with a solution to putting this dirt in another location. It's my hope, colleagues, that you will give me the courtesy of 245ing this and get this in my committee. Let's hear from the Army Corps of Engineers. Let's hear if there is another solution to dumping this dirt. With a little more work, with a little more cooperation, I feel like there is still a solution. And let me just say, bringing this back to my committee for one more hearing will not in any way delay this main channel deepening project. It is going forward. Bringing it to my committee one more time will not delay the schedule in any way. So I look forward to scheduling this in my committee as soon as possible and have one more hearing. I think you're going to hear today from a very interesting group, diverse group of stakeholders. We have labor here today. We have the historic preservation folks here today. We have business people here today. We have community people today. And when you look at those orange shirts in the audience right now, every one of those folks could have a job if this shipyard were in the Port of Los Angeles. They are here today because they didn't have work today. And every one of them could work at this shipyard if we were to bring it. So, colleagues, I just hope you'll listen today, but you'll afford me the opportunity of one more time asking the port staff if they could figure out a way to do both. Continue on the schedule of the main channel deepening while bringing a good union, green, state-of-the-art shipyard to America's port. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Hahn. And we have 21 cards. Did you want to propose maybe a minute each for 21 cards that we have or for the public hearing? Okay, so we'll do 1 minute per speaker. We're going to get through all the cards that way. And we will start. We have 2 former council members here today. Councilmember Rudy Savornich Jr. is our first speaker. And nice thing about these council chambers is that we welcome back our colleagues, and though we only served for 2 weeks together, it was the best 2 weeks of my life, Mr. Savornich. Good to see you.
Oh, you charmer, you, Mr. President. Good morning, Mr. President, members of the council, former Councilman Rudy Savornich Jr. representing Al Larson Boat Shop. It is a pleasure to see you all here today. Happy New Year to all of you. I am here this morning in regards to talking about public process. We represent the shipyard, which is right across the street from the closed shipyard, which could possibly be the site of the new proposed shipyard. The operators of the proposed shipyard are good people. They run a good business. The owner is a good man. But what we're talking about here this morning is process. One of the things that we know very well is that the City of Los Angeles has a process on how we go about doing business. How we got to this point was through a challenge to the EIR to dredging the channel. A memorandum of understanding was put together by the former president of the Harbor Commission, which gave a 1-year period of exclusive negotiating to establish a shipyard at the site. That expired on September 30th. So where we are here today is going outside of the process. If a shipyard is the right thing to go here, and it may well be, the city needs to determine that.
Thank you, Mr. Savornich.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Dr. Clyde Williams is our next speaker on this item. After that will be Tom Moxley. Morning.
Good morning. Dr. Clyde Williams, El Sereno. Why me here now? I owned a boat for 10 years. Nice 36-foot Choi Lee. Marinas are for boats. Ports are for ships. I also helped design the port of Dubai. So I know a little bit about ships, and I know a little bit about ports, and I know a lot about dredging. And why not have a shipyard where ships are, not where marinas are? So if you want someplace to put the dredge spoil, hey, take out the marinas out of the Port of Los Angeles and Long Beach. Put them over in Marina del Rey. Put them someplace else. Because harbors, ports are for ships. Marinas are for boats. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom Moxley is our next speaker. After that will be Suzanne Dominguez. Good to see you, Tom.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, distinguished council members. My name is Tom Moxley. I'm business agent for Ironworkers Local 433 and president of the LA and Orange County Building Trades. And if they'll rise, there's a number of our members of the 140,000 that are down here today because they are unemployed. I think we really need to take a look at it. That's the issue here before this slips away, because once the slips are gone, once this is done, we can't turn back. I spent a lot of time in San Pedro in the harbor area, and shipbuilding was a big thing then. It's historical, and we need it. And we need the jobs. We do not want to stop the dredging. We represent those members that are on the dredge barges. We understand the need for commerce and the bigger ships and the competition that's coming. And we support this to make sure we look at this once, twice, 3 times, and make sure, because once we make a decision and that shipyard's gone, it's done and it won't be brought back. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moxley. Suzanne Dominguez is our next speaker. After that will be Luis Dominguez. Good morning.
Good morning, members of council. I'm Suzanne Dominguez, a resident of San Pedro, and I'm here to speak in support of the shipyard idea. I would like to see my city encourage investment in our local community. Many times I've seen businesses try to enhance our area and bring new jobs only to fail. This is an area that we are naturally akin to, and a shipyard there would only add to our environment, add to better jobs, and I think it is an appropriate addition to the San Pedro area. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Luis Dominguez is our next speaker. After that will be Joe McKenzie. Good morning, sir.
Thank you. My name is Luis Dominguez, resident of San Pedro. Very quickly, there's some reasons that I'm in favor of this. I think we need this shipyard. Number one are the lost skills. We used to build ships, hundreds of ships in San Pedro. All of that skill is now gone to other areas overseas. We need it, have it here for national security for a lot of reasons. We need to be a competitive port. To be a competitive port, we have to be able to fix things that break in the port. I am totally convinced that if the port wants to do this, they can. They have the expertise. They can figure someplace to put the dirt. There's not a doubt in my mind. And the last thing, kind of echo what my wife said, is I like when people want to invest in Los Angeles. I worked in the mayor's office for 14 years. Every mayor I've ever seen says we're going to be business friendly. And then somebody wants to invest money and they get kicked out. We got to be business friendly. Invite people with money to come here. We need them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dominguez. Joe McKenzie is our next speaker. After that is Mary Jo Walker.
Hello there, I'm Joe McKenzie. I'm the current president of San Pedro Bay Historical Society, and we support the Gamble effort to restore the buildings of the old historic shipyard that used to build the Liberty ships that were important for World War II. And this bringing jobs into the community also is another benefit. Plus, when people would come to San Pedro, you come down the Harbor Freeway, as you exit, you see signs that say Historic Waterfront, and we're proud of our district and our area down there, and we'd like people to be able to see some historic waterfront when they do come down there. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your work on San Pedro history. Mary Jo Walker is next. After that, we've got Anthony Scussi.
Good morning, Council. My name is Mary Jo Walker. I'm a resident of San Pedro for close to 50 years. This is a no-brainer. We need shipyard, we need jobs, we need a lot of things in the harbor area, but why would we turn down somebody that wants to come in with his own money and build a shipyard? I know that the port can work it out. Besides, they want to dump the dirt right across from the Ports of Call. Now, wouldn't you all love to come down to the Ports of Call restaurant and see on the other side of the channel a bunch of dirt piled while you're having your dinner? No. We're trying to rebuild Ports of Call. The harbor's trying to do it, but we're doing it backwards. There's room for everybody, and there's room in the channel for everybody. We don't want to stop the water deepening. No, we need that. But we also need jobs in the harbor area. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anthony Picrosi is our next speaker. After that is Tom Politeo. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Anthony Perosi. I'm the chairman of the board of the San Pedro Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors supports the Port Channel Deepening Project, which should be the priority and not delayed, as was stated here today. The Chamber has also gone on record to support the continued study of the adaptive reuse of the former Southwest Marine Center as a proposed Gamble Maritime Center. We feel that this project would allow for the creation of jobs and would continue the tradition of shipbuilding and repair at the Port of LA and Long Beach. A world-class port should have a shipbuilding facility to serve its tenants, and we feel it's important to retain the structures that have been part of our history for a very long time. We also applaud that this project will be privately funded. However, the Board of Directors also understands that the master plan calls for expanding its good movements capacity and will serve as a catalyst for more jobs. It is our hope that a plan be developed that allows the Port Channel Deepening Project to continue without delay and without impeding the ability to place a shipyard at Southwest Marine Site. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Perosi. Tom Politeo is next. After that is Deborah Baker.
Good afternoon. My name is Tom Politeo. I'm a Sierra Club volunteer speaking for the Sierra Club.
Through the past two mayor administrations, Port Community Labor and Environmental Relations have been on a steady improvement. We've been very supportive of the Clean Trucks program in the Sierra Club, looking for employment status for the drivers since 2000, and I'm very proud to see the council, the mayor, and the port solidly behind this. On this particular issue, there's a split, with labor unions, businessmen, and chambers taking different sides. And we see this as something that breaks down with how they see risk, what they know, what they're familiar with, what they feel is where their security comes from and where they see their futures lying. We think that we need to prod sometimes to push people out of their comfort zones to try new things, and that's where greatness lies. We would like to see more diversity with respect to what goes on inside this port. But more importantly, we might not be here today had we had a discussion about the port master plan a number of years ago. We need to reopen up this master planning process, look at priorities, see if there's something we can do to remove the prison from inside Terminal Island. That just seems an absolutely silly use. And figure out, lastly here, what we're going to do about dirt. The Port of Los Angeles has dirt it doesn't know where to put. Meanwhile, the Port of Long Beach is bringing in dirt from outside. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Deborah Baker is our next speaker. After that is Richard Licerio, excuse me.
Good morning. My name is Deborah Baker, and I'm the Business Manager, Secretary, Treasurer of Laborers Local 802. The laborers are here today in support of the proposed shipyard. The Port of Los Angeles has provided and continues to provide our members with various jobs, port-related improvements, and expansion. It is imperative, one of such jobs is the main channel deepening project. It is imperative to us that the main channel deepening project continues uninterrupted. Though we are grateful for the project work our members have received, we are in desperate need of permanent jobs. Such jobs the shipyard industry would bring back to us. The shipyard was a vital part of Los Angeles Harbor from 1917 to 2005. The site in question provided over 6,000 jobs at one time. We feel, as Gamble Industries does, the time is right to revitalize the shipyard industry in Los Angeles Harbor. It will add to the economic diversity of a world-class port. The shipyard should be considered as an added benefit to the port's customers. So yes, to recap, we want main channel deepening projects, we want Gamble Shipyard. We should not have to choose one project over the other. Both are vital to the growth and success of the port and the city of Los Angeles. Again, I'm not asking you to make a choice, but rather to solve the problem. Please find a way to cut through the red tape and keep both these projects moving forward. Put our people back to work.
Thank you very much. Richard Licerio is next. After that is Linda Dishman. Good morning.
Good morning, President and council members. My name is Richard Licerio. I'm a third-generation laborer. My grandfather have pensions, medical through the labor's union. Everybody out here needs a job. Why not let a company give their money and help pay taxes on these people to go to work? Our pension, our medical depend on jobs. So look, all these people that are out here that aren't working and tell them you don't want to give them a job. Like I said, third-generation labor. Jobs are created by you people here at the city doing votes. So, again, look at these people in their eyes and tell them you don't want to vote for a job for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Licerio. Linda Dishman is next. After that is Ben Resnick.
Good morning. My name is Linda Dishman, and I'm the Executive Director of the Los Angeles Conservancy, a nonprofit organization with over 6,000 members. We strongly support the Gamble proposal because it provides a very important use for these vacant historic buildings at Southwest Marine. The port's own consultants determined this complex to be eligible for the National Register of Historic Places. They are the last vestige of San Pedro's once mighty World War II shipbuilding industry. This is the Port of LA's last connection to Rosie the Riveter and America's response to defending itself against attack. These are the buildings where this history happened, and once they are gone, all of us lose a tangible touchstone to the history of the Great War. Throughout this process, Janice Hahn has been an amazing advocate for this project. We strongly urge all of you to stand with her today to bring this to full council review and hopefully a resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Ben Resnick is next. After that will be Liz Magala.
Mr. President, Liz Magala won't need to speak. May I have her time as a courtesy?
We can't take others' times, unfortunately, but we'll move to the next speaker after her.
Council members, what you have before you is simply just a logistical question. Here is what the plan calls for now. The Army Corps is supposed to be dredging for 2.5 years. They're 4 months into it. They're supposed to take about 160,000 cubic yards. That's just an estimate in the EIR, and put it in the water slips. 2 years from now, they're going to cap it all. So here's the question. We suggested put the dirt in the slips just the way your EIR says you will and your permits allow. But give us time now while you have that hiatus, before you have to cap it 2 years from now. Give us time now to study the shipyard. We will incorporate that 160,000 cubic yards that's in the water slip into our project, because we've already got a design for it and we can do that. So that's the only thing. It's a logistical thing, and I know the Army Corps, who's done great things all across the world, and the port can figure out a way to do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Resnick. Peter Payton is next. After Mr. Payton will be Rich Dines.
Thank you. Peter Payton, President of the Marine Clerks Association, ILWU. I'd like to salute the tenacity of our councilwoman for this issue. Salute her. But I would like to say that we are at a time that we haven't been in before, where competition for cargoes and market share has never been where it's at right now. Whether it's Prince Rupert, whether it's Lázaro Cárdenas, or whether it's the entire east coast of the United States through the Panama Canal, we have to be very careful that the jobs that the port creates do not disappear because we make bad mistakes. I look at this project, and I've watched it over the years that it's been going back and forth, and I've said, as long as it doesn't interfere with the dredging, go ahead, fight it out. But the bottom line is we've come to the 11th hour of this project, and it's time that we make sure that we don't do anything in this council, in this city, in this state that takes the market share away from the ports of Los Angeles to where we can create the jobs for all these people for the next 30 years. Thank you.
Richard Dines, our next speaker. After that is Beverly Kenworthy.
Thank you, President Garcetti and honorable members of the council. My name is Rich Dines. I'm the president of the Southern California District Council of the ILWU. The ILWU represents 20,000 full and part-time workers in the Port of Los Angeles. And we strongly support the main channel deepening project and recognize how critical it is that the project proceeds on schedule and on budget. Any delay in dredging or added cost due to unplanned relocation of contaminated soil may have a negative impact on the port's function as an economic engine to the city, the region, and the entire country. There are millions of jobs in this country related to the Port of Los Angeles. In these uncertain times, we cannot afford to put at risk any job. But if we do not move forward today on the dredging project, we will do just that. We need this dredging project to attract the new mega container ships that are coming online today. And the Panama Canal is going to accommodate those ships. And there are ports on the eastern Gulf Coast that are dredging today, trying to steer those ships away from their natural and logical destination, which is the Port of Los Angeles. In conclusion, we ask the City Council to not only help protect the jobs our port supports today, but allow the port to create the jobs of tomorrow. We ask you to support the action of the Board of Harbor Commissioners and allow the Harbor Department to move forward on budget and on schedule with the main channel deepening project. Thank you.
Beverly Kenworthy is our next speaker. Joaquin Santos will follow.
Beverly Kenworthy with the Los Angeles Area Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber would like to emphasize the importance of the dredging project. We think it's really unfortunate that these two projects have been pitted against each other because they're both great projects. We appreciate that the extra scrutiny here because we can't sacrifice this dredging project for Gamble Industries, but if there is a solution, we're certainly willing to look at it. We just haven't seen one that the Army Corps supports right now, and it's just critical that we don't sacrifice that project. So thank you for your time, and we look forward to working with you as this moves forward.
Thank you. Joaquin Santos is our next speaker. After that is Matthew De Los Santos.
Good morning. My name is Joaquin Santos. I'm with Laborers Union Local 802, and we are here in support of Gamble Industries' proposal of building a shipyard at the Old Southwest Marine Terminal. We're here primarily to hope that the Gamble Industries and the port staff find common ground to move this project forward so that the community of Wilmington, San Pedro, the Harbor Gateway benefit. We desperately need jobs, and we feel that if they work together, we can achieve both so that everybody benefits. Primarily, everybody's saying that we need jobs, and we do desperately. A lot of our brothers and sisters have been without work for a long time, and this is a prime opportunity if, once again, staff and Gamble Industries find a way to move this project forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Matthew de los Santos. After that is John G. Miller.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
I'm a third-generation laborer. I don't have no speech worked up. I don't have nothing to look off of. The only thing I can tell you is we need your help. These men and women around me, we're out of a job. We need you guys to get us a job, you know. We need you guys to work together, make a solution. Let these two parts of Gamble and whoever else, the LA Harbor City, you know, the engineers or whoever, let's get them together. Let's try and find something that they can work together. Let's find a solution. Let's put all of us to work. We need your help, and we'd appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. John Miller. After that is Will Soholt.
Good morning, council members. I am Dr. John Miller, an ER physician and San Pedro resident. I'm chairman of the Port of Los Angeles Community Advisory Committee's Environmental Impact Report Committee. I'm speaking in favor of Councilwoman Hahn's proposal. The members of that committee have found no reason in CEQA or NEPA that should delay the channel deepening project. No one wants to stop the deepening. The port's claims that the shipyard project would delay channel deepening are not factual and appear to be a red herring. The port's claim that they can't find a place to put the dredge material is utter nonsense. In the 12 years we have been watching the port, we've never heard a claim like this on any project. It appears to be a self-serving rationalization intended to frighten the ILWU, put forward by senior port management that simply wants what it wants. You have a rogue agency that you need to assert your control over. Thank you.
Thank you. Our second last speaker is Will Soholt, and he'll be followed by Michelle Grubbs.
Thank you, President Garcetti, council members. My name is Will Soholt. I'm with Cosmont Companies, and over the last 2 years, I've had the privilege of leading Cosmont Companies' team in the effort to assist Gamble in the development and evaluation of the business plan. Through this process, I've been closely involved in developing and evaluating the business plan, including its individual components, the market analyses, and the various financial projections and analyses. As a result of this work, I firmly believe that a shipyard in the Port of Los Angeles is a viable opportunity. It will directly create hundreds of jobs and indirectly support thousands more within Los Angeles. With regard to channel deepening, I firmly believe as well that there are multiple solutions available that will allow for the use of the site as proposed by Gamble for a shipyard without delaying or otherwise impacting channel deepening. There are solutions out there that can be utilized. I encourage you to take this opportunity and embrace this opportunity to bring a shipyard, private investment, and jobs back to Los Angeles.
Thank you. Michelle Grubbs.
Good morning. My name is Michelle Grubbs, and I'm the Vice President of the Pacific Merchant Shipping Association. PMSA represents the customers and the tenants at the Port of Los Angeles. At the port, we have 75% of the annual revenues at the port come from their container terminals. 5 of the 8 container terminals would be negatively impacted if the channel deepening project is delayed at all. I know people have talked about solutions. The port has spent over a year looking at a detailed analysis, and if you look at it took them 5 years to permit the channel deepening EIR, and they worked with several federal and state agencies. If you looked at what those agencies said, they said the California Coastal Commission informed the port regard to Gamble proposal, no additional commission staff time and effort should be spent reviewing this proposal, and the approved channel deepening project should move forward. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers had clearly stated a shipyard plan would require analysis that would delay the channel deepening 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you. That will close our general public comments on this. Mr. Labange is our next speaker, and then...
I just want to say, members, I look forward to this vote. I think if it's heard one more time and then we go forward, and I would hope the Port of Los Angeles could give me an answer that says, can both these things be done? As a child growing up in Los Angeles, we took family trips down to San Pedro and the harbor, and it was very fascinating. And I always respected the men and women now who contributed to the world. I remember Todd Shipyards, which was there right off of John Gibson Jr. Boulevard. All that's important. So, Ms. Hahn, if we get this vote, which I do support, we make a decision and we move forward, because I think the Corps of Engineers is a very, very important organization, and their words are very strong, and as well as the issues that relates to Panama and also Texas. I always want to beat Texas in any which way I can, and I don't want to see it go to Houston.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. It is now Mr. Rosendahl.
Agree with you. Mr. President, if I could ask staff to come on up and the commission real quickly. Look, the bottom line is we got to do both. And we do want to have a shipyard, obviously. It would be great. We want the jobs. But we don't want to do anything to jeopardize the 30,000 jobs we have there and the port being what it is. I know that when that Panama Canal is opened and ships can go anywhere, there's going to be fierce competition, not only with Texas, but with the East Coast. I don't want to lose a single ship coming in. In fact, I want to be prepared in 2 years to handle everything that's going to be coming our way. I want to stay as we are, the most competitive shipyard. So can we get a quick hit on what the points are that we need to focus on? But yes, I will support Ms. Hahn and go forward to have a healthy meeting on this.
Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl. This is Cindy Misakowski, President of the Harbor Commission. The Harbor entered into this situation with giving Gamble the exclusive right to show within a year from the time this was signed, which actually started last May 09. This was something that was initiated by my predecessor, Commission President David Freeman, to say, Gamble, essentially show us you can do it. Show us within 1 year time that you can come up with an alternative design to the dirt going into these channels, and you can do it at no extra cost to the port and at no time lost for the channel deepening project, because that's our priority. That's been the guiding principle. The staff has worked for longer than a year looking at this. When the design that Gamble came up with was looked at, our engineers said it works, it does the job. But we're not so sure that the Contaminated Soils Task Force, Sediment Task Force at the state or Coastal Commission or others will agree that it can handle contaminated soil. It's worked before in the past for clean soil. We went up to Coastal Commission, we went up to these task forces. There have been innumerable meetings both with our staff and Gamble's staff and engineers at the same time at these state agencies. The Coastal Commission, a Sediment Task Force, still says we don't know about the viability containing contaminated, but it's going to take us a long time to study it. We don't have a long time. We've got a contract underway. Dredging is occurring. The trench for this particular location is going to be done by May by the contractor that the Army Corps has under contract now. Secondly, Long Beach came along and says, don't worry, you don't need to put the dirt there. We're taking dirt. And Gamble said, Port of LA, offer your dirt to Long Beach. Win-win for everybody. We went to Long Beach and did a lot of work, did some submittals. Long Beach said, we've looked at all the offers of dirt, and G-Port, we like your clean dirt, but we don't like the contaminated dirt. No, we reject it. So the design, which could work, is going to take a lot more study to be approved by the Coastal Commission and or the Army Corps. Finally, the Army Corps, which has the contract underway, contract management going forward, has said, testified to us on December 16th, that if we do anything different, submit an alternate design, come up with even a temporary solution, that will take them to go through their environmental analysis, because they now know this isn't just a design environmental issue. This is a design issue dependent on a shipyard. They want a full EIR on a shipyard. They said they haven't, and that will take 2 to 3 years. It will take 2 to 3 years to analyze this environmentally, and they said, and on our public record, if the port does that, we will cancel the main channel deepening project.
I would just like to add to that, council members, that
Just
we
identify
have...
yourself for the record. We know who you are, but will you identify yourself to the public for the record?
Sorry,
Thank you.
Geraldine Natz, Executive Director, Port of Los Angeles. We put our best engineers on this project. We spent over 2,000 hours of our engineers' time to try and find the solution. And as Cindy said, we did have some success in terms of design, but it took us 5 years to get the permitting process done for the project that is under construction now, using a design that everyone was familiar with. The regulators had approved before. They knew it would work for contaminated sediment. Now we looked at something different. The reaction of the agencies was that this would take a lot more time and jeopardize the project. So we have not been able to find the solution that allows this particular scheme of a shipyard in this location to go forward at this time.
But I would just like to say that does not preclude the shipyard either at this location, because another design could occur after we go forward with our project, or, and I think this came up before, and I will give Tom Palateo from the Sierra Club, who testified, credit. We need to diversify. We need to have a different kind of job development in the port. There's a large area of water in the port, not on the main channel, that needs to be master planned, and I think we've already committed to do a master plan for the Terminal Island complex, and a shipyard could go either here, in another area of the Terminal Island, and that should be our next win-win go forward, to really design and put forward a plan that constitutes diversification of jobs at the port with the shipyard. Today, there are 4,000 building trade jobs at the port under our capital improvement project. We've got the biggest, national federal stimulus project putting jobs today west of the Mississippi going on at the Port of Los Angeles at Harry Bridges Boulevard. So we are all about jobs, and we want the construction jobs. And those construction jobs are the ones that are building the main channel deepening.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Reyes is our next speaker.
Thank you, Council President. When we look at the regulators, folks, the state agencies, we have a new governor, we have a different infrastructure that's emerging. What's the possibility of having the governor understand that with all the rating he's going to be doing on our municipal budgets, all the cutbacks, that we need to do both? We need to do both projects, and why can't we have the state representatives present with us in discussing their timelines? The way it's been presented by Mr. Resnick, I'm quoting his letter here, he's saying, today the only thing that stands in the way of a new green state-of-the-art shipyard at this location is a rather small amount of dirt and the question of where and how to store it. And that we're going to be giving up $50 million in private funds to rebuild the shipyard with nearly 1,000 new skilled jobs. Now, if this is true, of course we know there's a pitch here and there's convincing that is being attempted, but have we explored our ability to influence the governor's role, the state's role, in putting us in this position where we're pitting two rather opportunistic scenarios? Have we had that opportunity yet with the state regulators?
We haven't talked to the governor and where and if and how that will change the Coastal Commission, but the Coastal Commission has been part and parcel, and we've been meeting with them, and they have indicated, again, no one is saying no. The issue here is time. The Coastal Commission said we need more time to look at this alternate study, and nothing has been further submitted, and that must be submitted by Gamble. The other thing, this isn't just a state regulation. If it were just the Coastal Commission, but it is, and it is also environmental, we can't just snap our hands and make environmental go away. This is contaminated soil in water, in the ocean. So that's got clean water ramifications. And then, but the bigger issue right now has been the Army Corps of Engineers. This is their contract, their channel, and they are moving forward.
We do have a new colonel, Colonel Toy.
He
has an engineering, environmental engineer degree. He comes from a different perspective. I'm assuming that the current participants of the Army Corps come from the previous administration?
No. Colonel Toy sent his number 2 in command to our hearing on the 16th and made the statement that I told you, that it will be canceling the contract.
So it is from the same administration?
Absolutely.
Okay. Could we have them available to us to ask questions in terms of the time frames?
Yeah. There is a representative from the Army Corps of Engineers here today in the audience. So
Okay.
I'm sure you'd
Well,
be
then
willing to...
we'll wait for that detail.
Okay.
We'll drill down there, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Cardenas.
Thank you very much. I really, really miss you, Cindy. Every time you talk about something or to something, you've done your homework, you know what you're talking about, etc. And you almost convinced me not to vote for the 245. But then I remembered something that's not about you, because you are right. Something about what you said that is a problem with our proprietary departments and this city. You said there's a great opportunity that the port has already committed to on a master plan that we can, right? If it's planned out, boom, we've got the shipyard spot for the future right here. Let's do this. We're all on board. Great. Everybody can say that, wear the same colored t-shirts next time. But the problem with that is, how did we get to the point where we're missing an opportunity right now where the dredging seems to be juxtaposed to the actual shipyard that's proposed today? And what I'm bringing up is, when I became the councilman in the San Fernando Valley, all of a sudden, boom, I have the Van Nuys Airport, a big, actually the biggest economic engine now in the San Fernando Valley is our Van Nuys Airport. And what happened was the community was saying, not LAWA, not the proprietary department, but the community was saying, we are tired of waiting for having our master plan finalized. And then what happened? We finally got it finalized. And it took over 12 years to get the master plan finalized. Great intentions 12 years earlier, great intentions 6 years into it, but finally, somehow, some way, we got it done after over 12 years. And now we finally have a master plan. And then, about 4 years later, some of those things in the master plan still haven't come to fruition. So I think, and all I'm asking of all of us council members, is to take the opportunity as a very busy policy body to go ahead and 245 this so we can have the full discussion of how we got where we're at, not finger pointing, but how we got where we're at, what was done perhaps maybe a little differently next time. Are we past the point of no return because of the dredging and this will interfere with it? And if the Army Corps unequivocally says absolutely it will interfere and therefore we have to forget about this particular shipyard right now, let's have the full discussion and let's stop listening to one side that sounds logical, another side that sounds very logical, and everybody's well-meaning and we all want these well-paying jobs, but at the same time, it can't be done right now. See, that's the thing that we're not going to get done, and I'm watching my time. I only get 2 minutes to speak at a time. I'm not even on the committee, but I trust that Ms. Hahn, the chairwoman of that committee, who actually lives a stone's throw away from this particular port, is going to do the best job that she possibly can to try to be fair about this and get everything out on the table so we can all learn from it and grow from it. Just recently, and I'll close, Mr. President, just recently with our airport, we had a long discussion or what have you. The airport still ended up having an affirmation of this council of what the board at LAWA actually voted on, but there was a couple of takeaways from that Ms. Hahn is going to take on that I believe that all of us agreed to, that we should actually go forward. We let the thing go forward, but there's something that we as a body learn from that, and we're going to be a better city for it. LAWA is going to be better for it, and I think we have this opportunity with the port now. And another thing, we hardly ever see you here. Sorry about that, but now's an opportunity for us to see more of you. Thank you.
Okay, good.
Ms. Hahn.
Well, thank you, colleagues. And as you can see, this is a very, very big, complicated issue. And I think if it was so clear that, building this shipyard would jeopardize, 10,000 jobs at the port with the main channel dredging, you would not see this kind of continued support for the shipyard. Again, you have labor, you have the environmental community, you have the preservation, you have the business community. And so what all I'm asking is that let's take another look at it, and I particularly would like the Army Corps to come into the committee during the hearing and clarify, because I was told something a little bit different by Commander Toy than what Cindy has relayed to us today. So let's clear that up once for all. Let's talk about whether or not we can continue with the main channel dredging and build a shipyard at the Port of Los Angeles. If you allow me that courtesy, I'll hear it in committee. And let me just remind you The main channel dredging project is ahead of schedule right now. So nothing has been delayed by this discussion. Nothing at this point is in jeopardy. Bringing it to my committee, I think, will only serve to clarify for everyone who's sitting here today whether or not this is a possibility to build a shipyard at the Port of Los Angeles. So thank you. With that, I'll ask you for your support.
Thank you. We now have before us, under 245, the ability to assert jurisdiction on the action of the Port Commission Board. A yes vote is to assert jurisdiction, a no vote is to not. Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
Okay, that jurisdiction is asserted. We'll send that to the committee, and I'm sure we'll be talking more about this. We'll send that to committee. Thank you very much. Mr. Zine, item number 4 is left.
Thank you. Just a couple questions on this, if we can get...
If I can ask folks to just keep their conversation to a minimum on the way out, please. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Zine. I'm sorry.
Thank you. If we can have the Office of Finance, I think they're here, and the CLA, the job creation tax credit, business tax structure within the city. We all support that. We want to create more jobs. We want to make sure our business tax structure is appropriate, and I know that the request is the CLA report on this. The question I have, tax incentives has the potential to significantly reduce city general fund revenues, and we know we're going into this next fiscal year with a deficit. Budget and Finance yesterday discussed the issues. How much are we talking about? If we do this, are we looking at the liability with the general fund, which funds our police and fire and other organizations within the city family? If we move forward with this, the concern I have is that reduced city general fund revenues. Are we talking a lot of money? Are we considering that in this proposal, or has that been pushed aside because of our desire to create jobs and build this tax incentive? So if we can have that issue, and if that's not part of the review, how we make that part of the review, because we have to equate everything and evaluate the entire process. So from both of you, please.
John Wickham with the Chief Legislative Analyst's Office. Our report does recognize that there could be significant impacts in approving some kind of a tax credit in this vein.
Now, when you say significant, are you talking thousands? You're talking millions?
We're talking millions, tens of millions, up to many tens of millions. Unfortunately, we don't have the data to determine exactly what that impact could be. So our recommendation was that these factors be included in the study that the Office of Finance is moving forward with, and drill down and get some specific data on what those impacts could be, because we don't want to move forward on anything until we know if this is going to be a serious impact or if this is going to be a minor impact.
Because we've already done some business tax incentives for the Business Community of Los Angeles, and this will add to those incentives, and the concern is if we add and add and add, we take away from the revenues to provide those basic services.
Yes.
Department of Finance?
Office of Finance, Ed Cabrera, Assistant Director. The Business Tax Advisory Committee has advanced several incentive proposals, as you indicate. As part of the study that an outside economic consultant will perform in relation to analysis of those proposals, this particular proposal will be folded in so that the specific concerns that you mentioned in terms of the direct fiscal impact to the city's business tax, as well as any potentially offsetting economic benefits that may accrue from this proposal, as well as all the other proposals in aggregate, will be studied and analyzed, quantified, and brought forward to this council so that the council can consider those proposals individually as well as in aggregate.
And when do we plan to have this complete?
The tentative outlook is sometime between March and June as far as the completion. We're currently working to identify a vendor to contract with. We anticipate that we should have that done by the end of January, and then that consultant will be working both with the Business Tax Advisory Committee as well as with the Office of Finance in conducting their analysis, reporting back, and then, of course, course, we will, along with the Business Tax Advisory Committee, be reporting back to Jobs Committee as well as to the council.
And then our budget takes effect July 1st. So how will this correspond with the budget deliberations? Once we get a budget, then we throw something on top, and if it's not included, that's going to create an issue.
As far as
how's our time frame going to work? The time frame you mentioned does not correspond to our budget plan.
Yeah, it is unfortunate that the timing isn't ideal, but when the proposal comes forward with the impacts in the business tax reforms, as well as, there is some, intention of seeing whether there are benefits as well in these proposals. Once we have all of those numbers in place, that will have to be reviewed in the context of the budget.
Okay, so we're talking about some possibilities to help encourage additional business, but at the same time, recognizing we've got a budget that's going to take effect July 1st, and we need to have this obviously included in some aspect or another, so it doesn't draw down from that general fund.
Yes, and timing will be part of that. As you may recall, the last time that the council adopted changes to the business tax system, some of those incentives were rolled in over the course of 5 years.
Right.
So it may be that timing is a part of the proposal that's finally considered.
Okay, but those are all taken in consideration?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Alacon.
Yes, council members, many of you have introduced motions that are seeking to provide tax relief to the business community. And as the chair of the committee that considers those motions, I want to let you know that we absolutely have a standard to investigate, to analyze, and to assume at the end of the day, because you can't, we don't have a crystal ball here, but the underlying assumption is that these tax reductions will increase our revenue by virtue of expanding business opportunities or keeping businesses in Los Angeles that otherwise would move out, or providing, correcting problems with fairness in terms of the transitioning and diverse industries that we have. In some cases, the way that the Department of Finance is looking at things doesn't keep up with the pace of the changes in a particular industry, and we want to specialize to ensure that it does. In this particular case, we didn't have all those questions answered. That's the nut of it. We wanted to make sure, because we knew that the impact was going to be great on the revenue side, we wanted to be absolutely sure that and to the extent possible, that if we implement these kinds of cuts, that we had the best information possible to determine that we would in fact gain revenue by virtue of this action. So the questions that you raised, Mr. Zine, are exactly the kinds of questions that we raise in committee. We are very focused on this, and I want to mention that every single credit that we have passed, every single tax relief measure that has come out of my committee has gone through the committee and with support, with the assumption that it is going to generate more revenue. We would never send one if we thought we were going to lose revenue.
Thank you, Mr. Alacon. Mr. Garcetti?
Thank you, Mr. Zine. This was a motion that I had introduced, and I said last year I think was critical for us to pass, and I think it is just as critical this year for us to do. This today just moves forward the studying of this. BTAC came back with a lower number than what I would like to see for a tax credit, so one of the things I'd like to fold into the study that we do is the possibility of something higher than $500 and $250. I think that while that may be marginally impactful, I don't want to spend such a little number that it's really a waste of money because it doesn't generate jobs. But as I talk to employers, if we combine with some of, and we'll see what happens with the state budget now, with enterprise zones and others, but if we combine with state and federal incentives, especially in particular parts of the city, new jobs could combined get into the thousands level of tax credits for those decision makers. It would be the difference between sometimes how many people they hire and not. So instead of putting I think the ceiling so low, if we could expand that back up, and I'll work with the CLA and with the chair to the original intent of the motion. I want to make sure as we fold that into what we study that we look at, because most researchers I've talked to said, it has to be at least high enough for it to make a difference in people's decision-making, that I will hire a new employee because there's city government that will step up. We did have some people say, well, can we get a tax credit for keeping jobs? Well, sympathetic to that, that would virtually, I think, take away all the money from the city, and there's certain folks that have done a great job keeping jobs. We do want to thank them and praise them for having done that during a tough recession, but really this is about incentivizing people now to make those hires on the cusp of a recovery, to build up some momentum here locally in our economy. Colleagues, this has to be the most critical thing we do. Balancing our budget and putting people back to work are my two top priorities this year. It should be the council's top priorities, and as I talk to my colleagues, for many it is, but we have to act with swiftness. I appreciate Mr. Alarcon taking this through, and today this just allows us to do those studies right away so we can get that data back, but we'll work with you to look at what those numbers are as well.
Thank you, Mr. Garcetti. Mr. LaBonge.
Thank you. I have a technical question I just want to ask to get clarified. In the city of Los Angeles, not every business pays a tax. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Here's the question I want to ask you, and I'm using this as a graphic. Okay, when you go down the boulevard, there's an address, and there's a business here, and there's a business here, and there's a business here, and there's a business here. Does anyone walk the street to see if everyone is registered in a city business?
You're out of order. We have a variety of tools and measures that we do and employ to ensure that taxpayers are registered. We do have field representatives. We do have various modeling programs that we use to identify and discover businesses. And we do share information with other taxing agencies to ensure that we do identify businesses that are registered and that are not registered, and we bring them into proper compliance.
Should there be an application charge for you to not have to pay taxes since you make less than $50,000 a year? I think that's the cutoff there. Is that a question?
Well, taxpayers have various incentives and exceptions. For example, the small business exemption has a threshold of $100,000. There are other businesses that are exempt because they are exempt entities for federal and state purposes.
The question is that I want to ask is, how do we know? Because on boulevards, there's a variety of businesses. I would love to make sure that people, if I truly believe as an American, if everybody from coast to coast paid their taxes, there'd be enough money in America. And that includes those corporate giants that often do use giant loopholes. But if everybody pays, I think the city can. Now, the question I wanted to ask you is, if we had every year, if you fill out a form that says I'm a business in Los Angeles, and there was a simple fee of $50 to make sure that we have everybody who's in business engaged. We don't know who's in business out there, do we?
Well, no. We have identified businesses. I mean, we do have discovery programs. So can we assert that every business out there is registered? No, but we work at discovering those. In terms of a particular fee to actually file, the Office of Finance has not studied that. That would be a policy decision for this council to make.
Okay, and let me ask a question, and I don't know if there's any traction with my colleagues here at all, but at this particular, how many businesses do you think there are in Los Angeles?
We have approximately 435,000 businesses that are registered with the Office of Finance.
400 and how many?
Approximately 435,000.
Great. And do we know how many commercial, have we looked at the variety of whether there's commercial zones and the commercial accounts with water and power and with residential accounts, etc.? Do we look at that?
We do share information with other city departments, including the Department of Water and Power, and we utilize that information to ensure that businesses that are registered with other departments or have some connection with other departments are registered with the Office of Finance, yes.
And lastly, would you or someone from your office walk with me in a grid of a commercial district? Because I remember when I worked for John, I would go out and you would see that little city seal like you see in the back of the room, like the fire department has. This room has an occupancy of 380 people, or this is a business tax that's paid for. I don't see that anymore when I go into shops and businesses. Would you walk with me and let's take a test and see if there's some traction to what my concept is?
the department would surely cooperate with any suggestions that the council member has.
All right, so I'll contact you, and then I'll report back to council. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the demonstration, Mr. LeBonge. That is our final speaker. Well, Mr. Cardenas just popped up. Mr. Tony Cardenas.
Apparently, the city of San Francisco has done something similar as far as incentives or what have you to businesses with some kind of income tax credit or something like that?
Yeah, it was related to their empowerment zones, and it was directed specifically at certain populations, indigent and handy.
So basically what's being contemplated right now, at least from a policy vantage point in the city of Los Angeles, is something that's even broader than that.
Yes.
It's more applicable to more people than that.
Yes. The recommendation from our office is to look at a variety, to look at those specific populations and see if there's benefits to help the difficult to employ, as well as a broader population of residents of the city.
Okay. Well, it's always good for us to understand what the cause and effect is of policy, should we implement something or choose not to implement it. But at the same time, what I always like to see in reports is one step deeper. Whenever we compare ourselves to Santa Monica, which I don't appreciate that very much, whenever we get compared to San Francisco, I don't appreciate that either, because unlike Santa Monica, I think people just believe if it's an environmental issue, and if Santa Monica did it, then it must be wonderful. And when we've looked into it in our city, for example, on one of the petroleum items that we were contemplating, we realized that, yeah, they implemented something, but they had no data to prove whether or not it was working. Yet everybody around the country, including in LA, was saying it's working great over there. And what we realized that there's no information to prove that, and they're even saying they don't have anything, so they don't know what that policy has caused. But San Francisco specifically, in this report, if anything's referenced to San Francisco, I would really appreciate it, is that we point out, does it make a difference that San Francisco implements a policy and they are the only city/county entity in the state? So the way they act, the way they tax, the way they give breaks or what have you, there's a different cause and effect. And then on top of that, San Francisco has people who live in San Francisco, they do a federal income tax, they do a state income tax, and there's some kind of income tax for people who live in the city. And we don't have an income tax. And for those of you who are watching, don't be alarmed. We're not saying that we're going to start an income tax in the city of LA. So all I'm saying is apples to apples, oranges to oranges, so that when us policymakers are looking at the good work that you've done, we're going to need those other layers of, by the way, those caveats, those footnotes saying there are some major differences, or there are some differences that you should be aware of, policymakers.
That was an issue we actually addressed in our report, in that this, one of the questions we need to look at is this the best benefit fit for our tax system? Because in San Francisco, their business tax is a payroll tax rather than on a gross receipts tax. And what that means is that if somebody is hiring more people, they're increasing their payroll.
There you go.
So, if they're getting a tax benefit on that, that doesn't cut into their general fund revenue. It just simply means that they're foregoing any new revenue.
There's an immediate offset, directly,
yes,
not indirectly.
Yes. Okay. Whereas our system is a gross receipt system, and that has the potential to reduce our general fund. And that's the crux of the issue here, to make sure that whatever those impacts are, they're not significant.
Well, it's my understanding that Bernard Parks has a good heart. I expect that he does, because every time we talk about tens of millions of dollars in one swoop of a policy action, I'm sure it skips a beat, because he chairs the budget committee, and the numbers are dwindling on the natural, much less actions that we take. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cardenas. That's our final speaker on the matter. Colleagues, please open the roll. Close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Mr. Clerk, next item, please.
Mr. President, there is a special one, and the maker of the motion will speak to the findings.
Special one, Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before you is Rule 23, requesting the council take action today on a matter that occurred yesterday in the governor's budget, which affects the city of L.A. So there's a need to take action, and it arose after the posting of the agenda. So I ask on the findings that we find that there's a need to act, and then we'll explain the reason.
All right, let's open the roll. Close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Mr. Alarcon.
On the motion now, it deals with the governor's desire to eliminate the enterprise zones from the state of California and from the city of LA in particular. We just fought a 3-year battle to get an enterprise zone in the San Fernando Valley extended greatly through the valley. People are coming to our offices. I can tell you, I have a business council that meets on a regular basis there. 50 people show up when we announced that we were going to have a new enterprise zone. We had 200 people show up. We're processing applications. They create jobs at a time when our economy needs jobs. This is important for us to ask our legislative representatives in Sacramento to work with the legislature to keep the enterprise zones alive. I believe Mr. Alarcon has an amendment which I will accept as a friendly amendment to that language as well. But it's important for us to keep the enterprise zones alive in L.A. at a time when we need jobs, when we're leading the state in unemployment. We need those options to bring businesses to Los Angeles.
Thank you. Mr. Alarcon.
Yes, council members, last week, Councilmember Parks and I attended the board meeting of the regional Council of Governors for the Southern California Area of Governments, SCAG, and I introduced a motion asking to take a position to ask the state of California to and the legislature and governor to affirm their commitment to not just enterprise zones, but also to CRA zones. As you know, the governor is looking at taking back CRA money as well as eliminating or potentially eliminating enterprise zones, both of which would have tremendous impact not just on my district but in the city of Los Angeles. In fact, if they take the CRA money, that bankruptcy word that I never wanted to hear last time, I would be the most prominent talking about it because there's no way we could cover the debt that has been incurred by CRA. I would like to add a friendly amendment to Mr. Smith's motion to have us take a position to affirm both the enterprise zones and the CRA. I can tell you, and along with my colleagues on the council who served in the legislature, that the first in will get the most attention, and we need to stand up and make it loud and clear that this would have a devastating effect on Los Angeles, not only for those of us who have enterprise zones, which I believe covers more than half the city, but to those of us also who have CRAs, it would affect our economy, and so this is a very important message, and I'm pleased to join with Mr. Smith as a seconder, but I would encourage this amendment to make sure that we're fighting both battles at the same time.
Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you, Mr. President. Some of you might know I was chair of the Commission on Taxing Policy for the New Economy. I was appointed by Gray Davis. I gave my report to Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I put the report now on Jerry Brown's desk for restructuring the tax system in California, which also includes taking a hard look at Prop 13 when it comes to commercial real estate, where a significant number of those commercial real estates have not been paying their fair share of taxes. There's $5 to $10 billion lying there right now. I know the governor is real smart, and he will take a look at that commission's report to see what changes need to be made. I don't know if I'm opposed to this enterprise zone or for it. I want to hear from the state officials their pluses and minuses on it. I personally have one in my district, as was noted by Mr. Smith. I stood there with Austin Butner by LAX, and Ms. Hahn was there, and Mr. LaBonge about a new enterprise zone. So I like the concept of incenting and bringing in business. Obviously, that's critical to us. So I'd like a real hearing on this discussion, and I would certainly appreciate our legislative arms to bring somebody from the governor's office to give us a presentation of their budget going forward. I think we all need to know it for many reasons. We're all connected. Our city budget, our county budget, our state budget, and our federal budget are all intertwined, all interacted. So we need to know where the governor is going with this before we oppose it or accept it. I'd like more information on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hahn?
Thank you. Well, I rise in support of what we're doing here today. I came out very loud and clear a couple days ago when I first heard that this was one of the ways to balance our budget was to get rid of CRA and enterprise zone. I was quoted in the paper as saying I was opposed to the idea of getting rid of our enterprise zones. And I know the governor has got some tough choices, and he's pretty much said this is going to be painful. And clearly, we have got to do a lot in the state to bring our budget in balance, make some cuts where needed. But I also just had an event a couple weeks ago announcing the harbor area enterprise zone, and there were businesses there who basically said, if it were not for this enterprise zone, we probably would not succeed. And this is about small businesses, and this is about small businesses hiring people. And we've always said small businesses were at the backbone of our economy, and the jobs that they create are really the key to us recovering. And I know we're going to have to make cuts, but I just don't think California recovers if our economy does not recover. And the way our economy recovers is to make sure that businesses succeed and that they're able to hire. The enterprise zones give tax incentives. Enterprise zones give hiring incentives. Enterprise zones give incentives for purchasing equipment so that the businesses can operate. So I think we do need to have our voice on this. I think we do need to say loud and clear, even those of you who aren't completely convinced, it's an opportunity to hear the information, but I, for one, will stand on the fact that enterprise zones do make a difference to at least to the small businesses in my communities.
Mr. LeBon. Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to rise and support this. I also asked the CLA to be in touch with the 88 cities in the county, not of all which have redevelopment areas, but also with the County of Los Angeles as a force. Recently at an economic summit where you were at, Mr. Zine, Gray Davis spoke, and he spoke of the population of California and what's the difference, where's the majority of population. And he would say that people said Fresno often or Bakersfield. Gray Davis said the split between North and South in population in California is somewhere between Melrose and Sunset Boulevard. Southern California, the efforts of what we have done must be heard, and I think it's very important. And additionally, I asked the CAO and the friendly amendment and the CLA have a very fluid discussion. Our governor has been elected and is now in office and now is making very, 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 very tough decisions that will have immediate impacts. 32 years ago, or 33 years ago, whatever it is, when Prop 13, I was here, the biggest thing that changed was there was a 5-man fire company, went to 4, and 247 workers from street services who drove trucksters, which were little motorcycles, 3-wheel motorcycles that worked on Broadway, Hollywood Boulevard, Wilshire Boulevard, were eliminated. And we adjusted and went through. This is a tsunami of a change that is very fluid, that we must have current knowledge every day on this here. So I make a call collectively with all of us out to our administrative office as well as our legislative office. Thank you.
Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, colleagues. I believe the estimate is about $14 billion deficit for the state. This action, I believe, creates just over $1 billion for the state. But for me, the real question is, by eliminating the enterprise program, are we further diluting our capacity to create a bigger pie to offset that $14 billion? That is a question we need to address. That is an assessment that we need to understand. If you look at our land use patterns in the city, the enterprise programs cover, for the most part, manufacturing and industrial zones where the core of our jobs are created, so we can have that national and international linkage, economic linkage, for the creation of new jobs as we relate to different international and national industries. Did we drill down to understand those ramifications? I admire the governor because he stepped up and he's making hard decisions. They are suggestions, recommendations, they're directives, but we need to now respond as local governments, municipalities, counties, and say, if you're going to push those costs back down to us, are you also cutting off our arms so we can respond to the increased financial pressures? And that is our responsibility, to be able to respond in a manner that speaks to the strengths of our capacity as a region, as a city, but more importantly, understand how our city functions given these trends and the pluses that the enterprise programs have generated for us in the past year. So the analysis needs to occur. We can't just say no. We need to say no with a reason and make them understand that this might not be the most strategic economic suggestion and or directive he's making of us, since he is pushing down not only our decisions, but also the problems and the costs to us. So give us a chance to grow our own budgets and become a healthier region because of it. Now, more than half of the population lives in the southern part of California, so let us understand our responsibility. And I hope we can get to that point as well, colleagues.
Mr. Krikorian.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate Mr. Smith's bringing this forward. I think that we need to be extraordinarily attentive to what's happening with the state budget, because realistically, there is no way that this city is going to avoid devastating impacts from the cuts that are going to be coming from the state budget. And let's all be realistic about this. The governor has proposed a budget that includes deep and devastating cuts as well as revenue increases. But the truth is, as this wends its way through the legislative process, it's more likely than not that many of those revenue increases are going to disappear because almost every Republican in the legislature has signed a written pledge never to increase any tax on anyone. And so the result of that is going to be, and the fact that the budget requires a 2/3 vote, is that the Democrats are going to have to accede to those demands, and the state will make even deeper cuts to the services that the people of California are depending upon. So that means we and our budget and our economic recovery are going to be absolutely significantly impacted. So it's very important that we, pay attention to this and every other issue of state funding for local government and the burdens that are going to be put upon us. And so I'm happy to support this on the merits. I appreciate you bringing it forward, Mr. Smith. But Mr. President, I had intended, Mr. President. I had intended
my colleague, Mr. Allergon.
Thank you. I had intended to vote no on the findings, and I'd like my vote to be changed to no on the findings, but I'm happy to support this on the merits.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you. Let the record reflect I was sitting here. Because, for those who might have just heard the tone. Thank you, Mr. Smith, and I'll be brief on this. I was very proud to lobby to expand these zones in my own district, in East Hollywood, into Echo Park, into areas of our city that had not. When I was chair of our Housing Community Economic Development Committee, we saw the widest expansion of these, and we can actually trace the jobs, and I have personal experience with that, where I saw in the entertainment industry a production that is a television production each year that came to Los Angeles, citing, among other things, the enterprise zone tax credits that they get and that they receive. It invests directly $6 million a year and about 100 jobs in the Glassell Park area of my own district. These are effective in closing the deal, of bringing people here, bringing to our vulnerable neighborhoods, and in ensuring that we can stay competitive, because things like real estate and other things make us uncompetitive. This is critical to California being able to stay, especially in our urban centers, at the cutting edge, and I fully support this. Thank you for bringing this forward, Mr. Smith.
Mr. Wesson.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. I, too, want to thank my seatmate, Greg Smith, for his motion, and I want to thank Council Member Alarcon for the amendment that he made as well. And Paul Krikorian spent time in Sacramento, and I think we need to listen to what Paul said. There is a good chance that the extension of the taxes, that's going to be a problem in moving that through the legislature. So if that does not occur, then the cuts are going to be wider, larger. And so I would suggest that we join the lobbying efforts of the CRAs throughout the state and other local governments that recognize the importance of what this organization has done for the city of Los Angeles. And and from a personal note, I'm really beginning to see the benefits in the district that I represent. And you want to use this money to take areas that are blighted and, change them and create a vibrant district. And I think many of us in districts like that, 8 and 9 with Parks and Perry, Miss Hahn, and I could go through some of the valley areas in East L.A. We've done a lot, and you see great things beginning to occur in those areas. I would hate for us to not have the ability to try to grow our own economy, create jobs, and give the people in all areas the types of services that they want, they need, and expect. So again, I just want to thank Mr. Smith, thank Richard Alarcon for his amendment, and suggest that we really get engaged now in a lobbying effort before people say yes without knowing what our views are on this subject, because I don't want somebody to say, oh, I didn't know. So let's make sure that the people in the Senate and the Assembly know where we stand. Anyway, thanks again, Mr. Smith.
Mr. Rosendahl?
Just a quick second. I talked to Austin Buettner, like I had mentioned. He stood there with me in the enterprise zone at LAX, and he strongly feels that we should move forward with Mr. Smith's motion, my seatmate too. But maybe we'll tweak it and do this and that. But obviously, everybody's focused on Sacramento. We need to focus on Sacramento, the county, the city, and the federal government as we go forward with this. So this is a very good moment for us to show who we are in the leadership role of what we have to do for our constituents. So obviously, it makes sense. Thank you, Mr. President.
Ms. Hahn?
Thanks. I'm supporting this. I just want to make sure that, Mr. Jerry Miller, that you will continue as the details of this budget keep, trickling out. Just want to make sure that you're going to give, I don't know if you're going to do a major report, regular reports. What's your concept on how you're going to continue to keep this council apprised of the budget implications on our city?
We will be doing regular reports. We'll probably send one out this afternoon.
Okay.
There was a conference call this morning with the League of California Cities on the budget. I discussed it briefly in committee yesterday. The direct impacts on the city are relatively minor. They're huge on the CRA. They're huge on the empowerment zones in terms of our actual budget. But we'll also be sending out the impact on the counties is brutal, truly brutal, and there could be indirect impacts, release of prisoners, elimination of social programs. So we will be doing that. In terms of how regularly, it's going to sort of depend on how things develop. But we will be sending them at any time there's anything material that you need to know about.
Thank you. I appreciate it, because I think that's going to be, as Tom LeBlanc says, information is knowledge is power. And I think if we're going to continue to stand up for our city and really thoughtfully either disagree or agree to some of the budget cuts, I think we certainly need to be made aware of as soon as we hear the details of the impact it would have on our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cardenas, then Mr. Reyes, then Mr. LaBonge.
Yeah, I just want to say that I appreciate, and we're going to need all the staff attention we can muster, even though we're lower in the number of staff right now as we speak than we've had in past years when we've had to monitor the state and the federal government and work on all the motions and all the day-to-day responsibilities we have as a council and as a city. So first I want to thank you, Jerry, for all the hard work that your staff does, and I know it's getting harder and harder to respond to these responsibilities when we have less and less good people to actually do the work. But keep up the good work, please. But On another note, I think that maybe we should take up a little collection from the council members, and maybe we can have other council members around the state and county supervisors take up a little collection to buy the new governor a nice scalpel kit, and then also have a burning ceremony and burn all the axes that he seems to have pulled out in his announcement of his budget, because this is a perfect example of using an axe when we really need to be looking in detail on the causes and effects of the state budget, of local government, of the responsibilities, and perhaps there are a few more responsibilities that local government has or should have that the state will give us. And that perhaps there are some responsibilities that the state shouldn't give us and they should retain. But the one thing that we have to be aware of, members, is whenever the legislature passes a budget and the governor signs a budget, what happens is they often tend to speak rhetorically about giving more authority to local governments, but they forget the money. But when the state had the authority, they kept the money and actually handled the authority and used that money for those purposes. But then they keep the money and then they transfer the responsibility and authority to us, and then it takes people, it takes equipment, it takes budgeting in order for us to fortify ourselves with the tools we need in order to get the job done when they hand us more responsibilities. So what I heard in the governor's announcement of the budget and his budget so far is that he's going to transfer more authority to local governments. And local governments not thinking about the whole picture, we applaud that because we know that this is where the rubber meets the road, and we're not afraid to actually manage our communities and try to do the best job we can. But the second part of what he didn't say in the budget, and this is a glaring example, is he wants to transfer the money that normally the state would deal with or allow local governments to keep, and it's my understanding it's about a $1.7 billion one-time transfer that he wants to plug into the general fund of the state of California. But what is the result of that? We have all this economic potential, we have all of these opportunities that are no longer going to take place. And that's going to have a cause and effect on next year's budget and the following budget, etc. So basically, this is the kind of move that is done with an axe, and there's a whole lot of blood, and there's a whole lot of collateral damage that's not being thought of. And so we need to stay on top of it. We need to be that voice, ladies and gentlemen. Whether we like it or not, we need to go to Sacramento, try to get an audience with the governor and his folks, try to get an audience with legislators if they'll listen and learn about what is happening here locally. So that's my advice. Perhaps we could take up a collection, buy a scalpel kit so that they put down the axe. Thank you.
Point of information, Mr. Smith.
Phil brought up a point that if we do that, we need a special event motion to waive the fees for the burning of the axes, so.
Thank you. Mr. Reyes for a second time, Mr. Labange for a second time.
I'm sorry, Mr. President, if I could just remind the council members,
This is on the
Rule 23, if they could, council members could limit their comments to a discussion related to the state enterprise zone program.
Thank you, sir, and great timing, City Attorney. In terms of process, in relation to the budget and the resolution, does the council have direct access to the lobbying effort from the city, or do we go through the mayor's office? I just want to understand the mechanics of how this works.
Well, the mayor's office is in charge of any governmental relations. They do have the Sacramento staff. I do have a contractor in place, Emmanuel Jones and Associates, David Jones, who doesn't lobby. He makes sure that my office and all of you are informed of what's happening so that we can strategize with the mayor's office on the lobbying effort. There is nothing stopping you as individuals from going to Sacramento and meeting with people and making your voices heard. But the official intergovernmental relations function is under the mayor.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Labange.
I'll take the city attorney's advice. First time,
Thank you, Mr. Labange.
maybe the
Appreciate
last
that.
time.
Mr. Cardenas?
Point of clarification on that answer to Mr. Reyes. Thank you for reminding us of all those accuracies, and you're absolutely right. But a point of clarification is this. When the city council and the mayor have taken a position on something, then we don't have to go as individual council members elected to represent our district. We can lobby / speak toward that issue on behalf of the city, correct? We don't have to only allow the mayor and his team to do so.
Yes. as elected officials, that is correct. Staff cannot, however, without going through the mayor's office.
Even after the council and the mayor has went ahead and, say, passed a resolution or something on a particular bill?
Correct. Even when you, well, first of all, under the charter and the administrative code, the mayor should not be, cannot lobby and present a city position on something until you have taken a position. Once you've taken a position, the staffing efforts by charter are under the mayor. But as elected officials, you certainly...
don't have to wait for that.
Exactly.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That is our last speaker for this item. Is there anybody who wishes to be heard for a third or fourth time on this? If not, let's go ahead and prepare the roll and tabulate the vote as amended.
14 ayes.
That will be sent forthwith. Next order of business, Mr. Clerk.
Council has motions for posting and referral.
Those are posted and referred.
Desk is clear.
Just an announcement, colleagues. We want to wish our colleague, Mr. Reyes, a very happy birthday today as he celebrates another year. Mr. Reyes, some birthday thoughts?
I just wanted to, as a birthday wish, I'm hoping that we as a city, as a state, as a country, can just bring down the volume of anger and hate and understand the responsibility we have when we speak to the public about how we create an environment for this great nation. And unfortunately, we saw a tragedy occur in Arizona, whether it's directly or indirectly connected to the vitriol is a whole other political question. All I'm saying is, as a birthday wish, let's just think about what we say and how we say it in public for everyone's welfare. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reyes. And a very happy birthday to you. If I can ask everybody to please rise for our adjourning motions. I know, Mr. Kretz, I think you're going to say some things about the victims in Arizona. I'd ask if we could just have a moment of silence in the spirit of what Mr. Reyes was talking about, for those folks who are exercising the most basic of democratic rights, which we do week in and week out, month after month, year after year, and those who are both staff members as well as members of the public who are attending a public meeting in Arizona. If we could have a moment of silence for those who have passed already, as we pray for those to survive who have been injured. Thank you. Adjourning motions. Mr. Kretz, did you have that, please?
I had an adjourning motion on a different subject.
Okay. We'll enter the names shortly. Why don't you go ahead with that one, and we'll enter the names into the record of those who have passed.
I'd like to adjourn in the memory of Debbie Friedman, who passed away early Sunday morning in Orange County at the age of 59 from complications of pneumonia. Anyone who's ever attended a liberal Jewish synagogue or summer camp or youth group event has been touched by Debbie Friedman. She took the folk music roots of the 1960s and 70s and braided them into the ancient traditional liturgy that has been part of the Jewish prayer service for centuries. Using both Hebrew and English lyrics, she was part spiritual leader and part Joan Baez, and marked every camper, student, rabbi, and congregant whose path she crossed in the nearly 4 decades she dedicated to this work. While she composed hundreds of songs that are enjoyed by Jews the world over, she's particularly well known for her prayer for healing, the Misha Berach, that is the regular part of hundreds of services every week. Perhaps more than any other work, this piece has provided comfort and healing to those who are sick and those praying for them. This is one of the many legacies that Debbie has left behind. May her memory and her music be a blessing.
Thank you, as would I, and know many friends of mine who were close with Debbie and sung her songs over the years in many services. Thank you very much, Mr. Kretz, for that memory. Mr. LaBonge.
Members, I ask we adjourn to memory of Jim Shoup, longtime Los Feliz resident who was very involved with the Neighborhood Association, Los Feliz Improvement Association, engaged in a lot of activity at John Marshall High School, community cleanups. He was much loved. He survived by his family members. Also, members, I ask we adjourn in memory of Bishop John Ward, who was one of the longest-serving bishops. Mr. Parks, he's lived to be 90. He was at St. Timothy's out on Pico for many years in retirement. But when he first became a bishop, John Cantwell was the Archbishop of Los Angeles, and appointed him. He was a very friendly man who was very approachable, a great leader in the Catholic Archdiocese in Los Angeles. His brother was a Los Angeles police officer. He was a native of the city of Los Angeles, and he was sorely missed. A deep Irish brogue when you spoke to Bishop Ward, but a tremendous man who did have great impact in Southern California in the Archdiocese of Los Angeles. I ask we adjourn in memory of Bishop John J. Ward.
Put Mr. Zine on that as seconder. You have other ones, Mr. LaBonge?
No, I don't.
Thank you, Mr. Parks.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd ask we adjourn in memory of Casimir James, who was born October 1985 here in Los Angeles, to Isaiah and Kemalita James. She was recently the victim of a homicide on Christmas Day in the 8th District. I would appreciate Ms. Perry going forward on the reward motion. She attended 107th Street Elementary School, Markham Middle School, King Drew Medical School. She's a graduate of University High School in 2006 and attended Mount St. Mary's College, then transferring to Concord Career College, where she graduated and obtained a license as a vocational nurse. She had numerous jobs as a teenager, but first love was nursing. She accepted Christ at the age of 6 and rededicated herself at the age of 19. She became a member of West Angeles Church of God in Christ, November 2010. She went through life never with a frown, never unhappy. She left lasting memories with everyone she met. She's survived by her 3-year-old daughter, Nevaeh Jackson, her mom, Kim Evans, grandparents, and 7 brothers, 3 sisters, and a host of other family members. Services will be held Wednesday, January 12th at 11 a.m. at West Angeles Church of God in Christ, located at 3045 Crenshaw Boulevard. The family has set up a foundation in her memory in order to provide funds for the future education of her daughter, and that's at Mothers Against Gang Violence on South Van Buren in Riverside, California.
I second that. I'd like to second that.
Thank you. Will Ms. Perry second that? If there are no other adjourning motions, the names of the victims from the Arizona shooting are Phyllis Schneck, 79, Dorothy Morris, 76, Dorwin Stoddard, 76, who was a pastor of the Mount Avenue Church of Christ in the area, Christina Taylor Green, 9 years old, who was recently elected to her own student council and had been born on 9/11. Gabe Zimmerman, 30 years old, a former social worker who was the congressman's director of community outreach and worked on the staff of Congressman Gifford's office. And then U.S. District Judge John M. Roll, 63, a very respected jurist and leader. The Pima County Sheriff quoted as saying, "I've never met a more sincere, fair-minded, brilliant federal judge or any judge, for that matter, in my entire life." May they all rest in peace, and may we remember them as we pray for the survivors. Mr. Clerk, if you'll please call the roll. We'll next be in session tomorrow, that is Wednesday, January 12th at 10 a.m. We'll see you then. Be safe and have a good day.